Look, I know I've kind of screwed a lot of people by not finishing what I started, and I apologize for that. If you've seen my previous video, you'll know that being an adult and doing things an adult will can get to you. But before I go, I feel like I should at least finish what I started 2 years ago. For those who forgot, and I don't blame you considering it's incredibly hard to find videos about people talking about Ebiten, and also because KYOUDAAAA has a habit of blocking videos of smaller channels who show any footage of their works, I should know because I was one of them, let me refresh your memory. Ebiten was a 10-episode ONA series by AIC Classic, the same big AIC brand who handled things like the Tenshi Muyo anime, and also worked on stuff such as the first season of Mocking Key, Place to Place, Strike Witches' second season and movie, and Cat Planet Cuties. Add the show to Crunchyroll, please. Now, in my previous video on Ebiten, I said that they didn't have to watch this thing on TV. It was not my only thing. But that doesn't mean that you could watch this on something like YouTube, but rather Japanese streaming services like Unext and D-Anime Store, both of which are currently streaming it. 2 years later, and 2 delistings on Crunchyroll and HIDIVE later, you can't watch Ebiten legally over here in North America, even if you wanted to. You wanna know what's funny? Despite removing TV shows like Hyako and Ebiten and Nisekoi, you can still watch some TV shows like ABC Working Diary. Who out there is saying stuff like, I want to watch that TV show over Toradora? I'm not even gonna go into a little tangent about tax write-offs because I don't need to. I have 2 words to say to companies who dare try to take advantage of tax write-offs for their own game. Just stop. So last time I reviewed Ebiten, we got through 5 episodes. Yes, I'll continue from episode 6, but just to recap, it felt like the show was getting self-aware of how garbage it was around episode 5. And then the show starts off with a simple sweeping scene from Itsuki completely shattering the whole self-awareness bit that the show had in the last episode. If you don't know who Itsuki is, he's a crossdresser. But hey, that doesn't matter, and it's just randomly brought up only to be forgotten when Yuki enters the room with a couple of threats and lies. Say it with me, the club is getting shut down. But Yuki doesn't care. She'll probably just keep making those same threats and lies. Wait, who is Yuki? There are like 45 characters named that. Oh, that Yuki. Future me here. I'm editing the video right now, and I'm an idiot. I called this character Yuki for the entire recording. Her name is Yuka, and I really apologize. But just before she can finish her sentence, a random song plays out of nowhere. What song is this? I don't know, and I honestly don't give a shit. Oh, it's Kyoko in a robot mech suit. Oh wait, I'm sorry, her name is the phoned-in Batman name for this character. We then get a scene showing the original Lionsgate logo because, again, this show is trying to parody every single popular 2000s anime under the fucking sun, but can't seem to do any of it right. And then we get the actual OP. I said it once and I'll say it again. I don't understand the point of parodying title cards of the show if you're not going to commit to it. I honestly feel like it'd be way more fun to see a new OP that parodies the show we're going for. Like the second episode parodying a magical girl shows like Madoka or Pretty Cure. Wouldn't it be better if we saw the full OP parody instead of the biggest potential waste ever? That at the very least make the show look committed rather than half-baking it. Because he likes it like that. He even admitted it earlier that he feels at home dressed up as a guy. This is just tone-deaf Kyoko acting tone-deaf for the sake of... Anyway, Kyoko acts stupid in front of the stupid, student council president, because I guess there's a mandate that he has to dress up as a girl. But whether you care for the joke or not doesn't matter. What matters is Kyoko is acting like a prick to one of her quote-unquote friends for at least the 9th or 10th time in this show by asking why Itsuki's dressed up as a guy. Anyway, these two get into a pathetic roughing tussle where a midlife crisis tries to act human in front of this poor man. But don't worry, Elizabeth Margaret, also known as Izumiko, who is the sister of Kyoko, comes in to save this very unfortunate day, and when I say save, I mean make worse. And as I mentioned before in the first part, these 2 women are terrible. Oh god, okay. I'm only 2 minutes into the 6th episode. What the fuck is this? Hey, at least Izumiko knows what's her property, because that's how you totally treat humans as. The president loses it and blah blah blah, get on with it. When it's made out of plastic, that's what can happen. Price doesn't even matter. Who are you people? Oh, okay, I get it. Wow, it's almost like I should have made the second part earlier. Let's just fast forward a bit, because one thing I didn't realize is that I'm only 3 minutes into a nearly 25-minute long episode. Let's be real, you probably aren't gonna do it. One thing I didn't mention in my first part was Hasumi really doesn't give much of a definitive answer as to why the club shouldn't be abolished, usually dancing around the answer just as hard as literally any of the characters do throughout this TV show. And that's not helpful or saying much, that's just being vague. While she is correct that yes, you can't necessarily stargaze without being in a night, why not just cut to nightfall and show off stargazing there? You rarely do it anyway, and you promised you would, so why not just... Oh, right. In actuality, there is some information that could be gained from this scene. I know, stay with me on this. Mostly character development featuring Hasumi and Yuki. They find a big house, a telescope, and run into an old lady who finds them. The old lady then talks about how much she likes looking at the stars, and in a way, I now can understand why the club is called the Struggling Astronomy Club, or whatever they may decide to call it next. Most of it is essentially this girl's doing. Even for my least favorite anime of all time, I guess I gotta give some credit for this. And it does give Hasumi and Yuki more character development than that disillusioned girl has. And by Ebiten standards, I think this scene is probably the best scene I've seen so far. Except for maybe, you know, that. Not sure why I should encourage this girl to not disband a club, but whatever. Whether it be out of pure nostalgia or because of sensitive feelings, but I guess I gotta give this scene a genuine pass for being as good as it is. At least when you're in a TV show like this. But then, let me take those feelings, grab them, and slam them into the ground only a few seconds later, with arguably the most confusing transition I've ever seen. Wow, in just a couple of seconds, this show has completely undone any goodwill this show managed to get from me. I don't know how you could do it so quickly, but well, whatever. Nobody's even paying attention. Why publicly embarrass yourself like this? I'm almost getting secondhand embarrassment from how stupid you're acting. Hell, Itsuki is feeling the embarrassment front and center. Like, you're seriously willing to put my guy through that? Aren't you gonna stop? Aren't you gonna read the room? I don't think it's really that hard to read the room. I don't think it's really that hard to read the room at all. Nobody asked for this. Nobody wants this. Just fucking stop! Stop! Cut the fucking show for a minute. Okay, Christ. The room is literally telling you we don't care, and yet just soldiering through this isn't going to suddenly make people care about what's going on. Just stop! Do this in the club room, it'll be so much less embarrassing. Okay, I think I'm better. I'm just gonna skip this part because I can't take this girl. I'm also skipping the Omori-sensei person section because I've already talked about my problems with it in the 32-minute and 31-second mark of the first part. Just watch that. But TLDR, it's literally just boring and unnecessary filler for a character I'm almost positive the audience forgot about. For anyone who watched this show past like episode 4 or 5, did you suddenly ask, I want to hear more about Omori-sensei person? If not, congratulations, you can sit with me at the cool adults table. Anyway, Kyoko finally turns into a Sentai, unrelated, wannabe. Honestly, I feel like the less we cut to the non-existent audience, the better. Because it'll just lead to me asking the same question of reading in the room and shutting it down. But both you and I know that Kyoko will never do such a thing. She's absolutely drunk on power. Yoshi, onna tenmon keiji honey, ikuzo! Boku mo desu ka? Ikuzo! Yeah, hit the people you want to do their bidding. That'll get the job done. Oh, and of course, with no direction, this was going to go badly. Basically, scene at number 589 of Kyoko acting like a mean person to a supposed quote-unquote friend, and I will keep calling it in quotation marks because I doubt anyone is friends with Kyoko. In fact, screw it, I'm just gonna call them acquaintances for now. Yeah, let's go with acquaintances. Oh no! My acquaintance got defeated because I forced him into battle and gave him no real direction. I guess this is all his fault and not mine. Now I gotta do this myself. Also, don't ask what Ryuki's doing. It's not worth talking about. Man, I wonder why it feels so wicked hot today. It couldn't have anything to do with the raging fire. Okay, Jordan, calm down. If you react like that to obvious moments, you're just gonna give the show the reaction it wants. Instead, I gotta be critical, not acting like a Sakomi. Then again, I can't help but ask, like, there's this raging fire happening in the background. I know it's a 2012 show that came out, but cell phones existed around that time. Nobody could find a payphone or call the ambulance? Police? Nope, let's just watch the world burn, because that's all we can do, I guess. Hey, if this show can get away with terrible references to other properties, I can too. Also, the next 2 clips I'm gonna play, I have a lot to talk about, so yeah. I doubt Itsuki wanted to do this. It was probably a bunch of Kyoko's machinations that caused him to get into the situation. I could just imagine a scenario where Kyoko said something like, "You're gonna take part in this experience, or I'm gonna force you to watch Fox News," and Itsuki was all like, "No!" I 100% doubt that Itsuki wanted to do this on his own volition. If that's what you call a serious performance, then that's not really saying a lot. And also, it absolutely sucked too much to be anything approaching the term serious. I mean, ignoring the audience for a minute, even if you did put your blood, sweat, and tears into trying to put on the best performance you can, clearly everyone who's playing in it, not naming names, weren't really into it themselves. And maybe that certain person you forced into this experience, maybe he didn't want to be involved with this mess. Just a thought. You don't have to read into it at all. Not like my opinion matters, because KYOUDAAAA only really thinks about herself. Now that I think about it, who is funding this? I want to know their name. Yuki theorizes that it's from the stupid hero show that funded this, but I have my doubts, especially since they caused the fire. A fire that probably would have did dozens of damage to the set, would have caused a huge loss, right? Meaning, you barely make any money from the show, right? Right? Also, while there isn't really much to comment on after this, since they do some actual stargazing, I do have to show you this line Kyoko says, because, you know, it's hilarious. I think you're a person who forces people to do things, acts mean towards your acquaintances, gets into arguments with your sister, does pointless spouts, and is also self-centered, cruel, stuck-up bitch who's fine with breaking a person and only saying the right things on very rare occasions. Now I'm starting to agree with the notion that you tarnished your sister's name. Remember that shit? Remember that stuff from the 4th episode? Remember that? Jeez, who do you think you are? I think you're a horrible person. Yeah, I said it! Anyway, after this, we do have another, I guess, heartfelt moment where the astronomy club stargaze, which would be nice in my opinion if it weren't for all the stuff I had to watch prior to this happening. This is a good scene on its own. It just shouldn't have taken what felt like forever to get where we are right now. While the show does a good job at explaining things, I don't know. I just feel like the stupid hero show and the annoying beginning kind of put a little damper on this scene. But hey, that's fine. In some cases, you have some rocky moments in life. The same art style that was used to make Vlad Love was also used to make Teppen, and I love Teppen. It's one of my favorite shows of that year. So yeah, I'm half and half on this episode. That being said, the negatives do outweigh the positives, especially with the second-hand embarrassment that I had to deal with halfway through. Also, our president Yuki, realizing her error, decided to postpone the abolishment of their club for today, which rings about as hard as a "I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time" line I've ever seen. You know, with how much time she was fixated on this club in particular, she's probably wasted loads of times when she could have been doing that time under the student council umbrella. And that includes potentially handling other clubs and abolishing those. But nope, let's fixate on just these people for no reason. Genius! Oh no. Oh god, why do I have a bad feeling? Oh shit, I forgot about the K-On! Episode. Why did I come back to this show? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. It's time to talk about Ebiten Episode 7.
I'm having chest pain!
I don't like Ebiten Episode 7. I didn't like it when I first watched it back in 2020 when I first put the otaku boots on, and let me be honest, I probably never will like it. It's just dumb. Too dumb. And it all started when I saw this. Easily the dumbest pivots I've ever seen. So yeah, this show went from Haruhi Suzumiya to Rock is a Lady's Modesty. This cover actually looks sort of fire until you look at the character expressions and realize everyone has that Higurashi look. I mean, show by Rock. I mean, Bang Jam. I mean, drop. Okay, fine, I'll do it. I'll do it right. This show went from Haruhi Suzumiya to K-On! I didn't want to say it because it felt like it was such an easy reference to point out, especially since the show just said it for me. But yeah, I said the thing. Yeah, because Izuki can't be dressed up as a guy. Seriously, I almost feel bad for the fucker. But he could easily say, "Fuck this, I'm gone," and just refuse to. And I don't know why. Also, how did you get Itsuki changed so quickly? He was literally wearing a guy's uniform up until this point. Also, one thing I forgot to mention largely because, again, it's been a while since I made the first part, is I'm guessing the show gave up making jabs at Kanamori, and instead redirected every jab towards Itsuki. Not sure if I'm happy or not, but since Kanamori is acting more like the Sakomi of the group, I guess I'll let it slide. I love a good Sakomi. Good question. Let's hear her answer.
らしいしな。
That is not a viable fucking answer! What you basically saying is, I'm just trend chasing and I hope we'll get views!
要するに星を見るだけじゃダメだ。
That's literally the point of the astronomy club, though! That's literally the point of astronomy!
自分たちがスターになろうってことで。
Yeah, you'll be stars, alright. Stars will end up appearing in a video where I talk about your performances for 2 videos that combined would be over an hour long. Also, remember what I said before when I said 2 years later and 2 delistings on Crunchyroll and High Dive later, you can't watch Ebiten legally over here in North America even if you wanted to. This effectively taps out a pretty large market, so the stars aren't really aligning at the moment. Wow, I just realized I'm only 35 seconds into this. I promise I won't talk about every detail, but still, I just don't like Kyoko, so there's that. She's about as annoying as Mona Kawaii, and Madaka is impervious to my charms. Wait, I mentioned that in my last video? Who cares? This might be my last video anyway.
なんかやばい気もするけど。
Don't we all? In fact, I might just play this for every time Kyoko has a bad idea. Hopefully it becomes a meme by the end of the week. So yeah, they ultimately decide to try playing a song. But since they have no idea in terms of how to play an instrument, Kyoko just tells them to pick an instrument. What could go wrong? Well, this is how things could go wrong. So, what happened?
Very funny, motherfucker.
To the idea of starting a band. Did we just immediately give up after experiencing failure?
誰もちゃんと楽器弾けないし。作画大変だし。
That's code for we gave up after experiencing failure once. Cowards. You're like marketing execs that try one thing and fail miserably, so you just let it rot. So they all follow a cat, with the perception that people like cats, which is true. But assuming people will suddenly be interested in something simply because you have a cat in it is, well, get back to me on that one. It's not just Kyoko and her delusional escapades that are getting in on the rock band / guitar hero trend. As the student council president is as well. I don't know why. Yuki doesn't necessarily need to do it, let alone be here in this episode. But I guess when you're dead set on closing down a club, I guess it's kind of easy to let that get to your head.
私も嫌いじゃないっていうか。
Hey, at least you finally outed yourself as some kind of tsundere. Not like you're much better. Also, without any context, Kyoko, you literally could be setting yourself up for jail time. I don't think this girl thinks before she does something. It's ridiculous.
こんにちは。ダーリン、いないんですか？
Don't do this. You just look desperate and mean if you do something like this. Nobody repeatedly rings the doorbell of somebody's house. That's like repeatedly calling someone over and over again until they pick up. It's a thing that should be unacceptable in modern day society. Hell, I'll even go on a fence and say it should be illegal. Even our fellow protagonists are just looking at Amori doing this and going, stop, just stop. Somehow, by Amori doing this, she actually makes Kyoko look more like a huggable and more lovable character. So yeah, that's really worrying. In fact, the next scene that happens next almost undoes any goodwill that Omori has done from my memory, and I don't think she has. I'm not gonna show it because it's incredibly upsetting, but just know that, I'll be honest, I'm really sorry, Kyoko. With all my heart, I'm really sorry for talking down to you, saying you were my least favorite character of the show, and stuff like that. I could not be more wrong than ever, because what Omori did in this scene completely invalidated every good thing she has done in the past.
あれが教師のすることか。
How is it that Kyoko, the most frustrating character in this show, and I, the same person who made a pretty average video criticizing her character for 51 minutes, somehow aligning in terms of our beliefs and theories this one time? Because yeah, I'm wondering, is this something that a teacher, someone who has a pretty substantial degree, should be doing? Plus, she's a grown woman acting like a yandere teenager as opposed to an adult with a mortgage and an unhappy single life.
私はただの恋する女なのです。
More like delusionally in love. Also, I think this show has completely forgotten about the music part of it, which only lasts a few minutes and either we've forgotten about it already or maybe the show will just come back to it at some point. Either way, I guess it's Amori's time to develop her character even more.
前とかじゃありません。今もお付き合いをさせていただいてます。
Okay, seriously, no jokes for once? This will be the last time I talk about Amori's character, as I suddenly no longer want to be associated with her nor give her any more screen time. But all I have to say is, I don't like her. Get her out of the show. There's a difference between a comic relief that's funny and a comic relief that's just sad and doing illegal things. And this character is on the literal edge of being on the ladder. I sorta knew she was messed up. Yes, if you didn't hear me from my previous time with this character, she was already on the deep end when I first met her. Literally, the first episode proved it, and then the second episode cemented it. Unfortunately, this action just kinda confirms she's a comic relief character that just isn't funny and is really stupid. I don't know, there's just nothing really redeeming about her character, and I think that's my biggest problem with her. And everything she's done beforehand to benefit her her character was undone thanks to this one particular scene. So instead of giving this character any more screen time to redeem herself, I'll be cutting her from the story and only showing her when she's necessary. I don't care, she's just not fun and I've had enough of her BS. Anyway, here's a cliche scene we find ourselves in, where two characters find themselves in a trapped space, because someone from the outside automatically locks the two of them inside. I mean, we're pulling straws already with references and cliches, let's add another one to the pile. Now, you'd think that this was done by some weird late night force, like they stayed a little late and ended up getting trapped because of that. That's not really the case here. Instead, this was planned by Kyoko in an effort to get footage? Why? Well, according to Kyoko herself,
今は放課後、時は夕方。夕日には生命を繁殖させる特殊な波動が出ているのだ。
which doesn't make much sense at all, and if it's what I'm thinking of, I don't think that makes the situation any better. If anything, I think it makes it look worse, because I'm guessing she's expecting some activities to take place, and that makes me feel like I should be seeing some red or blue lights in the background. Hell, me just covering the topic alone, it makes me feel uncomfortable.
いいんだ。だいたいエロゲだろうがラノベだろうが、男女の営みにおける初手は放課後の教室にありだ。
That, and it can also happen in the bedroom, as shown between this scene of Mari and the main protag of Red Eye Cross Royale. Yes, I had to record footage of this game just to prove a point. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
そうなんだ。どうせこれも戸田山のいたずらだと思うけど。
So you're telling me something like this happened before or something? I would say Kyoko's kind of a scumbag for doing that, but I think I'll be lenient and let her slide. She's nowhere near as bad as some other person I know of. Anyway, this scene just turns into one shitty rom-com cliche after another. Sitting on a stool and getting looked at? Check. Accidentally touching some yabos? Double check. Princess Carrie? We got a hat trick.
やめんかおしまい。
Kyoko being an asshole again? We've got a ham bone. Regardless, the scene that follows is actually alright. I'm a sucker for emotional moments, but I guess another problem that I have with this is, unlike episode 6, it doesn't feel right to me. Unlike them stargazing, I feel like this show started one thing and then diverted multiple storylines into the same episode before finally settling on this one. And even then, the show wasn't done, because here we have another thing that's not going to be built up upon until later in this episode.
どうした？
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. Anyway, we got evil Itsuki now. Itsuki's got a dark side. Ooh, what a twist. And he suddenly turns into the most generic protagonist from any shoujo/ultimate thing ever. He also has the most annoying laugh I've ever heard. But I guess it's better than Jared Leto's Joker. Okay, this is attempt 1 at trying to make a Joker laugh. Ha, 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 ha. But, how do I feel about this episode? Episode 6 was pretty mediocre, and episode 7 was not as bad as I thought it was back in 2020, although I think I'm just getting used to this show by now. If we had to go by my track record, it's annoying and bad, sure, but the moment between Itsuki and Kanamori was sweet, and the cliffhanger was alright. It's just the first part was kinda stupid, so I'd say both episode 6 and 7 were mixed bags. I'll say this now, though, the episodes I think are starting to improve as they progress. They initially started off as really boring and stupid, but now I think they're starting to get tolerable. I'm not gonna say better. We're gonna say tolerable. Speaking of next episodes, I should mention this now. Up until episode 7, I never really watched past this moment. So a lot of the moments beyond now are going to be fresh and original reactions from me for this review. So let's take a look at episode 8. So Itsuki's been, possessed or something like that, and he turns into a suave, stuck-up person. Kinda like Kyoko, but way worse. And he has a certain effect on people. He makes the boys weak and the girls leak, I'm not kidding. Honestly, it's a decent twist, but I feel like it's way too late for the show to suddenly get serious. At this point, the show starts making more twists and turns, like Kyoko being Itsuki's fiancé, and a maid having a gun, and whatever this is. I don't know how it works, and I physically don't think I can care, so let's just cut to the part where he gets...
皆さん、今のうちに脱出です。
Great, now this will give me an excuse to skip this scene. Also, I don't think I need to get into this, but bringing a gun to definitely not a bad idea at all. I know you want to protect your master, but you're not really helping your case when you bring a gun, live with ammunition or not, into a... It's just like that scene from Gabriel Dropout, except worse because it's fucking Ebiten. Of course I'm biased, I don't like Ebiten. Wow, this scene, or single shot at least, it reminds me of something. I don't remember what, and I can't seem to put my finger on it, but... it'll come back to me. So, they rush back to the student council president, who up until this point has appeared in every episode of the show, for some reason. And she's bringing back already outdated bits and using them again.
Howdy. Howdy do, fellow kids.
Anyway,
けど副部長はよく平気でしたね。
こんなこともあろうかと耳栓を入れておいたんです。
but most earplugs aren't 100% noise proof. If that were the case, you wouldn't be able to hear anything at all. Plus, by responding to her, you've 100% proven my point that most earplugs aren't 100% noise proof, so yeah. For context, whenever summer rolls around, there are a ton of thunderstorms, and they can happen a lot. The way I usually fought it during the summertime was by wearing some earbuds, specifically the Skull Candy Rail ANC, which sort of helped but didn't block out the noise. I tried AirPod Maxes at an Apple store nearby. I feel like the second I grab these are gonna, like, go off. Well, yep, that happened. And if you play something while wearing them, then yes, it works really well at blocking out noise. But I could still hear chatter from the 40 other people near me that were also at the same Apple store. Okay, correction. That works way better than I thought it would. The noise canceling is actually really impressive. I even have a pair of earplugs myself, and same story. Also, you knew this was gonna happen? What, did the writers of the show give you the script to it? Because with luck like that, you shouldn't be messing around with these guys. You should be at, like, a slot machine at a casino or a gacha game or something. God, I don't understand this universe's logic. I could have sworn I heard something about Kyoko being a fiancé to Itsuki. Maybe this is a good time to Shut up! I haven't had my fifth serving of Fruit Loops yet and I'm starving! That's basically how this show tries to push down important plot points, by doing something else instead. Stop it. Damn, how long does it take for you to get a single stain out of someone's clothes? Or are you just like, oh no, I spilled my drink on you, I'm so sorry. It's fine, it's not even that noticeable. No, it's not fine, hang on, I'll fix it. Well, if you insist. And then nothing happens for several seconds or minutes? Aren't you gonna- Shut up, we have to be quiet. The next scene is about to play, and we have to wait for our turn. I feel like it wouldn't be too long before the affected person would just say, I take it back, I'll handle it myself. I don't know, is that just me? Because I sure as hell would feel that way, and I don't think that's even a justifiable excuse. Now Kyoko and her band of misfits are on our way to stop fucking 20th Century Fox logo for making some loud noise. I don't know, I'm fucking done with this fucking show. To stop Itsuki using the power of these rock candies that were teased across multiple episodes and were rewritten twice in this TV show for some reason without a definitive thing that represents them. So for the two people that care, Kyoko's plan, which is explained after an unneeded sacrifice in the worst Walking Dead sequel ever, they use rock candies to use something called the pheromone breaker, which will turn Itsuki back to normal. And with the power of willpower, and no, seriously, what did they use to make this? All I saw were a bunch of craftsman tools. Also, you might have noticed I haven't commented on the alias part. That's mostly because I can't really be asked. You know, it's not funny, so why am I gonna comment on that? This is one trope I will never understand with bad guys. They always constantly say things like, I'll take over the world, or I'll be the ruler of the world. But then when I hear about it, I then ask the question of, but like, then what? Like, you've already gotten what you wanted and the heroes will be defeated. But what are you gonna do then? Just sit around and laze all day? It seems pretty pathetic if you ask me. Like, I'm not saying you have to think about it that soon, but it's such a basic plan that has so many holes. Also, what other worlds are there?
私も耳栓のおかげで大丈夫です。でもその割には普通に会話できてますよね。I'm gonna start skipping a bit more of this, but basically, Kyoko is now locked in a head-to-head match against the pheromone projector, and things go about as well as you'd expect. She stalls instead of taking the shot, like an idiot, letting some touching, heartfelt dialogue play out, despite the fact that she has the upper hand if she just take the fucking shot. Also, of course you'd have some badass line as opposed to just Itsuki taking the hit. In fact, I'm almost positive with the amount of time, literal seconds, Itsuki wasted saying this line, Kyoko could have turned around and fired, but just chose not to, because this show needs to go on for 2 more episodes, I guess. Jesus, I can't with this show. Like, I want it to be over. It's stupid, and this could have ended pretty easily, but nope, stretch the show longer. Anyway, next episode, Itsuki does some kind of bad guy gesture, and I'm gonna be honest, this storyline with Itsuki becoming a bad guy is just really boring. I don't find it interesting at all. But, like I said at the start of this viewing, this is just my opinion. It's not really the overall opinion of the show. But what's also my opinion is I bet Izumiko regrets not pulling out when she did. That's the face of someone who's thinking, oh, man, I wish I didn't go through with this plan. But I'm already here, so I might as well just go along with it. I mean, what could go wrong? Well, guess what? Everything can! Like, just, I mean, come on. By being in this show, you should know that. In less than a few seconds, this show has completely proven my point to me.
フェロモンブレーカー
I literally just said earlier that the term alias in a name is an absolutely a pointless addition. And it wasn't funny the first time, and it will never be funny. So stop saying it. No.
Jesus Christ, I've just started stealing bits from CinemaSins now. Great.
B 級作品だって努力すればエリート作品を超えることがあるかもよ。
In a way, Kyoko's not wrong. I know there are a lot of people that find a lot of shows pretty fantastic. Free Ren, The Apothecary Diaries, Mushoku Tensei, and then there are a bunch of niche comedy slice of life shows that I personally like. GJ Club, that's obviously a must. Minami-ke, that's also a must. Africa Cyberman, that's ironically a must. And Drop Out of Fruit Tart, that's obviously really good. And a lot of these shows aren't really popular. In fact, I'd say the quality of them puts them right in the line of a B or C tier TV show. So she's not wrong. Of course, that comes down to personal preference, but what I'm saying here is that I don't think Ebiten will ever reach the levels of, say, a GJ Club. Certainly not a GJ Club, and certainly not a Drop Out of Fruit Tarts. Not my favorites. Maybe it's more in line with something like, I don't know, Aiken or Demon Lord Retry R? They're both okay, I guess, but no matter how much effort you put into this for me, there's no saving Ebiten, and there's no surpassing anything. Now, before we continue, I want you to just imagine the quickest killed off character ever, and imagine what their reason is for coming back. I've never seen a much bigger plot hole be any more lazily bounced above before. And I've never seen a plot hole be any more lazily fallen into before. You know, I feel like I've seen this before. Like another character who rides what looks like a trike similar to what Itsuki's riding now. And I can't seem to remember his name, and he's equally as annoying as he was in Mario Kart than he is now. Anyway, this is how this scene goes out. I'll act it out. Give me my sister back. And my cat too. You think I'd seriously go down without a whoa, Jesus! Okay, I feel like I should turn off the show and take another shower, man. So yeah, my guy's at Disneyland doing something that almost definitely put him on the FBI most wanted list, or at least get him punched in the face. I know your plan is going sideways, and it's obviously not working, but still, when your entire plan is basically, I'll use my pheromones to mind control females, maybe don't get children involved. Okay, maybe he's not gonna do something illegal. I mean, it's anime, so...
僕はこの力でここに幼女のハーレムを築くことにしたのです。
What?
It's around this time that the show actually started to break me. I guess writers from 2012 were a lot more unhinged than they are now. Anyway, Kyoko thinks to herself,
Oh, this guy's about to turn into a convicted felon. I gotta stop him.
and asked the question that everybody, including me, wondered the minute that left his mouth.
それはなぜだ?
And this guy's response is fucking fantastic.
それは僕がだからね。
Like, dude, this show must be fucking taking the piss.
I will admit, that was actually a slightly funny joke. That was actually funny. It's extremely edgy, however, I still laughed at it. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that. Again, Itsuki mentions being Kyoko's fiancé, and a lot of us are wondering why he keeps saying that when he literally never built off of it. Izumiku mentions it, but he doesn't explain, like, dude, I don't think Kyoko's in love with this guy. I think she's walking up to just a crazy person. Your feelings could reach him, you just have to talk. You have a mouth for a reason, use it. But no, let's let this madman exposinate for like the third or fourth time in this show, I've lost count, while making some really disgusting gestures that weren't as funny as that twist and in fact come across as just weird. But ignoring those, he says he's gonna transform into something truly horrifying. And Izumika's like, no, stop, don't do it. And Itsuki's like, shut up, you could have betrayed me and you never did. And now we're back to Yawnsville. That might be the new worst pun I've heard in this show. There's literally no excuses for a pun that shooty.
You're not funny and nobody likes you.
Now he just looks even worse when he says the things he says. Again, if you don't want to take part in his plan, don't. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. In fact, I think now's a good time to say something. Okay, I'm gonna be skipping the next few bits. Again, can you hear me? I said, can you hear me? Just say no. You know those drug commercials back in the day where they say, just say no? Why aren't you taking their advice? The one time that advice could be useful and you don't fucking use it. This girl's pissing me off.
Truth be told, the DARE program was also a disaster in its own right, and it did not make the message go forward, but still.
I know I said I wouldn't mention that shithead of a teacher, but I'm sort of forced to now because she actually did something useful for once. Well, yeah, she saved our heroines, who were in a bit of a pickle up until that point. 2 out of the 4 of them have shrunken down because of some pills that they made, and now this show is just another excuse to be creepy. It's like the show has a few jokes per episode or just one big one and they run with it until the episode ends, and honestly, it was okay the first time. Offensive, but okay. But repeating it over and over again doesn't make it funny, much less great. Now you feel the weight whenever the ground starts to shake. Not in the 4th episode, not that scene. No, but here now you do. Okay, cool. Great continuity! I kind of feel like the show is just making stuff up as it goes along at this point. Oh no, our main characters are in a pinch. Gotta throw the teacher at them to save the day. Oh no, the laws of physics are bringing us down. Gotta throw in whoever this guy is, giving our troubled heroines a chance to get away. Oh, and I should mention that by writing a character like this, it doesn't encourage me to root for them to be turned back to normal. He's not Itsuki, obviously, but that doesn't change that it's still Itsuki's body that he's in. It's like a person being hypnotized into doing crimes. It doesn't change the fact that the only thing people will see is the person, not the conscience. Apart from turning our Kyoko and Kanamori back to normal, what was the point of you being here? Was it just to expositionate more dialogue at us in an uninteresting way like your younger, much stupider brother? Why does this show have more fun telling me stuff rather than showing me it? In fact, I'm not the only one who's asking that. An in-universe character also asked the same question, so I'm obviously not alone on that. Facts don't care about your feelings! Oh look, another ex machina. No shit. In fact, I think in that time, Kyoko could have pushed you out of the way, slapped you, or did anything to stop your reign of not terror. But nope, why do that? That would actually be helpful and make the show end quicker. I'm so angry Yuki died twice. It's not like one of those deaths was my fault or anything. Nope, it was 100% just a freak accident. I'll be honest here, the best praise that I can give for Ebiten is this. I'll praise the fact that episode 9 probably has the best handled references for all of Ebiten. Yeah, I'm not kidding. They're repetitive and stupid and some of them don't make much sense, but I'll give this show credit for at the very least doing more of them than any other episode so far. I'd even make a bold argument and say that this is the best reference of the show so far. For those who haven't figured it out yet, this episode is parodying Dragon Ball Z, and it does a fine job at it. I'm not gonna say good, I'll say fine. Anyway, more exposition that's mostly just white noise. Super Saiyan Kyoko is basically saying, I have to beat this guy. Itsuki brings up a marriage proposal again, but SS Kyoko refuses, and a moment where Kyoko could literally push this guy away shows up. But Kyoko does nothing. At least try to put up a fight. Even if he's restraining you, you're just gonna sit there and take it? Fight the fuck back, damn it! Oh, now you do something. You could have done something here, and especially here, but nope. Wait until the 11th hour to do something. That'll stir up the tension bugs and get the audience to suddenly feel for a character that hasn't done much at all since following Itsuki's lead and since this whole Itsuki becoming a bad guy plot took place. Yeah, that'll show him. She does have feelings after all. And real talk, I don't like this scene at all, nor do I care about it. This character has every moment before to do something, and now that she does, it almost feels like a way to add emotional moments into this show rather than being for her own benefit. She could have said her feelings about this from the start, and in my opinion, that would have been the best case scenario for her, since he didn't turn into a pathetic husk like he is now. I don't have anything against emotion or using it to allow the audience to feel for a character, but there's a time and a place for it, and you have to justify that time and place. And I'm sorry, but I can't justify it here. I honestly felt like there was more emotion out of this character than episode 7 and now, and I felt more emotion out of this show in episode 6 than now. Here, I think it just feels forced, and that's not what you want an emotional scene to be. Speaking of emotion, you wanna know what I'm not feeling emotion for? This last episode. Here's a fun drinking game. For every show that this show references for no other reason besides haha it's there, take a shot. In fact, this is a good time to talk about something Zaptime mentioned in another video about references, and something I also brought up in my first video about Ebiten. Just referencing something on its own without any substance doesn't make the joke automatically funny. You have to have substance, but in reality, aside from episode 9, and even then that's a hell of a stretch, Ebiten hasn't offered much when it comes to references. The references, while a bit clever, aren't funny, at least to me. And this opening is a perfect example. Just referencing stuff out of context doesn't automatically make it funny. Like, oh hey, there's Heaven's Lost property, and oh, there's the student council's discretion, and oh hey, there's Heaven's Lost property again. Are you laughing yet? Are you pointing at your screen like Leonardo DiCaprio did in that one scene from that one movie? Are you not entertained? I know I could bring up the obvious question as to what's happening right now, as the last episode sort of ended with Itsuki just going back to normal. So, it's Christmas in April, and we're having a cultural festival, and Jesus. Like I said, I sort of expected that. He was a different guy and all, but that doesn't change the fact that it was Itsuki's body and his conscience or anything. But at the same time, you confessed, albeit indirectly. You might even get what you wanted. So, I say it was a happy ending, even if it was a bit of a mess. Unless if I'm reading that wrong and she wasn't confessing. But what am I supposed to get out of lines like, I won't allow you to and blank other girls? What am I supposed to get out of that other than a confession of love if it wasn't what you're saying? Oh look, it's a reference to Girls in Panzer, if you think too hard. Well, I'm glad I made this. The worst group photo I probably have ever seen. Wait a minute. Is Ebiten referencing something now and I just don't know about it? Or am I reading too deep into the TV show? I'm gonna say the former because you never know when Ebiten will do the thing. I don't know if it's a compliment that your club is proud of the fact that the term ass is in the name, but it really shouldn't be. So we get a scene featuring these two, who talk about stars for a bit, and also reminisce about the past, giving both of their characters more weight, which I'm down with a little bit of character development, but like, I feel like this character development could have happened a little earlier, but that's not really a criticism, it's just a thing that the show does. In fact, we actually get more character development throughout the episode, so that's actually interesting, including an instance where Itsuki nearly disconnects from reality before being helped up by Izumiko, which is nice, accepting him for who he is with the flaws, and that kind of makes me wonder if, well... Never mind, I'm just thinking to myself. Wow, who knew we'd be back to horrible Omori-sensei after only one episode? And truth be told, she wasn't that much useful in the last episode. To make matters worse, she's now getting students involved in her BS. I think someone might have to put a stop to this teacher. And then, that happens. Again. Hey, well, at least I came prepared. Which is something I would be validating if Itsuki doesn't end up saving Izumiko in the end. Can I please stop watching this show? It's fucking awful. It's over. It's finally over. It was a gruesome battle. So, was the halfway mark bad? Was the halfway mark bad? That's the most important part. No. Some of the episodes were fairly alright, but I still think I've proven my point. In my opinion, Ebiten is my least favorite anime of all time, and there's nothing out there that can change my mind. Oh wait, I lied! There is!